Hey everyone, Andrea Walford here. Today I wanted to share with you my very first page in my brand new ESV single column journaling Bible by Crossway. In my video tutorial, I'll walk you step by step through the exact process I followed to create this Here I Am Lord page. Now the video is sped up because in real time this page took me over an hour to do. Now as many of you may know if you've been following me, I'm a Christian mixed media artist. I'm also a longtime card maker and scrapbooker. Over the last 10 years, I've built an online business centered around teaching mixed media and card making. Because of that, as I'm sure you can imagine, I have built up quite a stash of products. These products are both things that I've purchased over the last 10 years, as well as products that I've had given to me by various companies. So while you'll see me using some current products, there are also a number of things that I use that are no longer available, although in many cases you can find comparable products. So why am I telling you this? Well, I don't want you to feel like you have to have everything that I'm demonstrating in order to start Bible journaling, because Bible journaling should never be about the products. Rather, it's about developing a deeper relationship with God through study of the Word. When you use your creative gifts, it's a celebration of who He made you to be, and it's a form of worship. After all, God is the ultimate creative being. Really, when it comes down to it, all you need is your Bible, a pencil and eraser, a fine-tip black journaling marker, and some colors. These could be color pencils, markers, craft paints, watercolors. It's totally up to you. Everything else falls into the nice to have, but not strictly necessary category. I also encourage you to take a look around your house because there are all sorts of things that you can incorporate into your Bible. Ready? Let's go. So I'm working on the very first page that you see when you first open your Bible. It's the page where you write your name in order to tell the world who this Bible belongs to. Now I decided that I wanted to personalize my page by incorporating some of my favorite colors, patterns, textures, and fonts. All those artsy things that just make me really happy when I see them and play with them. Now I see this page as a special page because essentially, although it's about me in a sense, I'm dedicating it to the Lord and letting Him know that I am here, ready, and waiting to hear His voice. Because I'm going to be applying multiple layers of acrylic paints, gel medium, and embellishments to my page, I prepped my page using clear gesso by Prima. It's part of their Art Basics line, and I applied it with a 1-inch flat brush. Now there are many different brands of gesso. My top 3 favorites are first by Golden, which is a high-end artist quality brand, the Art Basics line by Prima, and the Dina Wakley line by Ranger. Now the purpose of gesso is to prime your page and give it some tooth. When you work on gesso, you'll find that your products go a lot further and in general look a lot smoother. It'll also help keep products from sinking into the paper and then showing through on the other side. Gesso will also help to strengthen your page, which is really helpful when you start working on the fragile pages of your Bible. Now this page that I'm working on is a little sturdier than the regular Bible pages, but I still want to prime it nonetheless. Now to prime it, I'm adding 2 thin coats of clear gesso and drying it with my heat tool in between. I also applied 2 layers to the back of the page because that will balance out both sides of the paper and keep it from curling as badly as if you only had gesso on one side. After my page was primed, I started by scraping on some white craft paint using a paint card. Now this paint card came in a package of 5 and it was sold by Illustrated Faith, but you could also use an old credit card, a hotel room key card, or an old gift card. And the paint I'm using is an inexpensive craft paint from Michaels. I simply placed a small dab of paint on the edge of my paint card and then scraped it onto my page, applying it in various directions. Now I like working with the paint card because it allows you to scrape on a very thin layer of paint, which stays kind of translucent so you can usually see right through it, and also it will tend to dry quite quickly. But I do like to give it a shot of heat just to speed up the drying process. My next step was to scrape on a light teal colored craft paint called Ocean Breeze. And again, I scraped it on in several different directions. And then once I was happy with the placement of that teal colored paint, I immediately scraped on some of the citron green colored paint. Now I did not clean my paint card or dry the paint in between. Once I had both colors applied and I was happy with how it looked, I then made sure that I carefully dried my layers using my heat tool. Once I had applied my base layer of acrylic paints, it was time to add a little texture and pattern. Now I have this super old foam stamp by Claudine Helmuth that happened to have this little dots pattern. I decided that I wanted to stamp some of these dots onto my page in a hot pink paint color, so I chose the Raspberry Ice Martha Stewart paint. I placed a small dot of the paint onto a piece of palette paper and then spread it out thinly using my paint card. Then I just had to pounce my stamp into my paint and stamp it in a few places on my page. I also added a fun little, I don't know what you call it, lines, dots, combination of both, texture to my page using a stamp from the Illustrated Faith Elements stamp set. And the ink I used is Ranger Jet Black Archival ink. Now this is similar to StazOn ink if you're familiar with StazOn. I actually prefer it. It's also a waterproof ink, and I just find that it seems to stamp a lot darker. I have less issues with partial impressions than I do when I use the StazOn ink. Next, I grabbed this awesome Tim Holtz stencil, positioned it onto my page, and then masked off the areas where I did not want any ink or any stenciling to appear. I then applied some teal StazOn ink through the stencil using a Ranger foam applicator. Now, while I don't love the jet black StazOn ink for stamping, I do love StazOn's colored inks, and I use them both for stamping and for applying through stencils. And as you can see here, I applied my stencil in the top right of my frame of color and then also in the bottom left of that same frame of color that I created with my acrylic paints. Now, once I had finished up with that, I decided to bring back my little Instax selfies. So I had taken this picture on my iPhone and then I used my little Instax printer to print it out. I absolutely love that little printer. And I just positioned it where I wanted it to appear on my page. And then I just grabbed a black spool of thread. So this is just a normal cotton sewing thread. And I basically just pulled off a whole bunch of it and then kind of clustered it and positioned it where I wanted to appear behind my photo. Now I ended up having to put together 2 clusters of this thread so that I would have enough thread showing. Now, thread can be a little bit tricky to stick down to your page. So my favorite way, I guess you could say my tried and true way of sticking down clusters of thread like this is to take some of my gel medium, and I was using my golden soft gel medium. Again, brand isn't really important. You could use Gina Wakely, you could use the Prima, but I brushed it onto the area where I was going to have my thread, and then I just very carefully lifted up my cluster of thread and placed it over top. Then I grabbed a piece, my palette paper, that same palette paper that I had used for the pink paint. And palette paper has a wax coating, so I placed it on top of the thread and pressed it down because I was worried that if I just used my hands and pressed it down, it would stick to my fingers because I've done that in the past and that's exactly what happened. I then grabbed a little bit more of that gel medium and then carefully pressed it onto the thread in areas where I could see it hadn't quite stuck down to the medium that I had applied below. Now from there, I then took my heat tool and I just dried it in order to set the gel medium. So once my cluster of thread was dry, I was then ready to put my photo on top of that. And I just used that same gel medium and I spread a relatively decent layer on the back of my photo and then stuck that in place. Now, because I absolutely love washi tape, particularly this chevron pattern, I don't even know who makes it. This is something that I bought years ago, but I love that pattern so much that I decided I wanted to incorporate it onto my page. And it doesn't have a super strong adhesive on the back. Now, washi tape is pretty low tack to begin with, but that one, because it's so old, it's even less tacky than washi tape normally is. So I just brushed a thin layer of my gel medium along the top of my photo and also onto the page, and then I just pressed it, my washi tape into that gel medium, and then just brushed a very thin layer on top as well. Now I have these awesome black and white sentiment stickers from Illustrated Faith, and these are still current, so you can still get them from the Illustrated Faith website. And I picked the one that said Perfectly Loved, and I wanted to place that underneath my photo, so along that thick white edge that's at the bottom of those little Instax photos. Now, even though the sticker, of course, has an adhesive on the back, I didn't know how well it would stick to the photo and to the acrylic paint, especially on a long-term basis, so I applied a little bit of my gel medium underneath it and then pressed that into it. Then I grabbed these little black enamel hearts and I decided that I wanted to have a little cluster of hearts on my page. So I took one of the small hearts, just picked it off with my tweezers. I did not want to use my fingers because I was worried that if I touched the back of the adhesive, it wouldn't stick as well. And again with this one, I also applied a little bit of that gel medium onto my photo. I then stuck a little heart there and then added a couple more hearts of different sizes onto my page. Now I have these absolutely awesome stickers, or well, thickers from American Crafts. They're called charcoal, and unfortunately they have not had these ones for a long time. This is my last package of them, and I've kind of been hoarding them because I just absolutely love them. And because this page means a lot to me, I thought, you know what better place to use them? Now, normally I would not use thickers on my page. Thickers are chipboard letters, and they're quite thick. And of course, you know, with the Bible, there's a lot of pages in there, and once you start adding your things onto your pages, it's going to start getting pretty thick. So in general, you want to pick things that are not super thick. But these letters are probably my all-time favorite, so I decided that I was going to put them on my page. So I spelt out the word Lord. I applied some of the gel medium underneath because I wanted to make sure that they really stuck. Because again, they're old, so the adhesive is not the greatest. So the gel medium will just make sure that they don't fall. And then I was trying to figure out what stickers to use to spell the words "Here I am." And I finally settled on these little black rectangular stickers. These were by a company called MLS. I'm not even sure if the company's around anymore. They made these in a bunch of different colors, and I bought a whole bunch of them. And again, we're going back probably 3 years at least, and I've been looking for them because, of course, when I run out, I want to make sure I have more. But unfortunately, sadly, I haven't been able to find any more, although there are similar ones in the market. So when I run out of this one, I'll look at something else. Now, I am a total bling girl, and I add bling wherever I have the opportunity to add it. So here I decided that I was going to add 2 clusters of 3 rhinestones. The rhinestones I'm using are the Stampin' Up! Rhinestone Basic Jewels. Stampin' Up's rhinestones are probably my all-time favorite. I think it's because, well, it comes in a variety of different sizes, but I think it's just that they're so sparkly. And most of the other clear rhinestones that I have found through various paper crafting manufacturers, somehow they're just not quite as sparkly as Stampin' Up's. So of course, I had to add some of these to my page as well. And once I added these with that, I decided that I was super happy with my page and it was finished. So there you have it. That's how I created my Bible journal page. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comments section below, and I'll answer them right there in the comments, so be sure to check back for your answer. Now, if you're looking for some more Bible journaling process videos, then please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I'll be posting new pages on a regular basis, as well as sharing some of my other faith-based art. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial, and I look forward to creating with you again. See ya!